Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing? I can't help it. I have to start like this. I'm an MC by trade, so we're going to need a bit more than that. How's everybody doing? Yeah! I'm bricking it. So I'm used to introducing other speakers. I don't do a lot of speaking engagements myself anymore, so this is going to be interesting. Today I'm going to talk about courage. Because when I'm given the topic, I thought, well, what would I say that's inspiring? If I had 10 minutes to talk about something, what would I say that's really inspiring? And my life is, in some respects, really uneventful. I don't have one of those rags to riches stories, so that was out the window. It was like, my family wasn't poor. I was quite privileged, really, growing up, so I couldn't really use that. I got reasonable grades at university. I got to really good schools, so I couldn't really use any of that kind of normal stuff where it's like, look at me, it was rubbish and now it's great. I don't have that story to tell you. My life is pretty mediocre. But I have been one of those people who's had a really big dream. So who here has had like a really big dream where you're just like, I've got like an ache somewhere, like just like a real ache where I know I'm meant for something really big? And for me, that kind of happened when I was pretty young. I remember, I used to love the game Monopoly. I thought it was amazing. And so I always knew that I was either going to be a ballet dancer or something on a stage, like something like that, or I was going to be a phenomenal business person. Like, it was going to end up being one of those two things. And so, I kind of went through uni, and I was always one of these kind of go-getters. I kind of went out and did this and, created careers fairs and leadership teams and all of that kind of good stuff. But my parents were those traditional parents. I hope my mum doesn't see this. And so she's going to be like, I didn't do that wrong, Lovelda. It's not wrong, it was perfect. And so I grew up in the background of go to school, get a really good education. Sound familiar? Get a really good education, get into a really good job. And so I was on that track. And so I thought, well, in order to please my parents, the best way to do this is to get a good job, but in a really senior position. And then my parents divorced, and I thought I'd be nice and go along with my mum to some of these personal development events. And that awakened something in me to kind of go out and do it on my own. But I was a bit scared, so I did this in the background. So, I kind of thought, I'll start my first business up, and away we go. So at this point, I'm now enthusiastically clueless, I call it. And that's the point where you've got all the enthusiasm in the world, like guns blazing, I can do this, but not a frigging clue what you're doing. Sound familiar? First business. Didn't last long. I'll tell you how that one started. I thought, I know what I'll do. I found a great sales coach. At least I thought he was a great sales coach. I don't think I ever tested him out as a sales coach, if I'm honest. But I found a sales coach, and so I came up with a business idea looking for an audience. So what I mean by that is I thought, right, I'm going to put on events, because that sounds like fun. And I found I came up with a really interesting concept, and then I went to my sales coach, and I said, right, I've got this concept. I've even spoken to the venues, because I'm a go-getter. I'm one of these people. I just get off my butt, and I'll get it done. I've spoken to the venue. I've got that all lined up. What do we do? And he went, have you got an audience? And I went, that's where you come in. And he went, no, it's not. So that didn't last very long. I then went through cycle of, I was searching, really. It was a lot of searching for the right mentor, searching for, what's my purpose? What is my purpose? What am I here for? Everybody else had a bloody purpose. I didn't know what mine was. I just wanted to make money, not be in a job. I genuinely didn't know. So I'm just telling you the truth. I didn't know what my purpose was. Like, what is this big purpose I'm supposed to have? People had these large visions. I'm changing the world. I want to go off and make this. I don't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a decent business person and have my own thing. It sounded like a good idea. And so I kind of fumbled along, one failed business idea after another. It's not looking great, is it? I'm supposed to be inspiring you. I'm not doing a great job. But it was one kind of failed business opportunity after another. And I gave them a good whack, right? I really did. I mean, I had websites, good ones too. I paid good money for them. I did videos. I did all that stuff they tell you to do with the events. You kind of do the free tickets and you sell them stuff and then you sell them some more stuff. I was doing all of it. I was at every event going, well, there was property. I did a bit of that, because you need multiple streams of income. So I had foot in the property ladder, foot in the events ladder, bit of speaking, I took basically every little bit of it, and then I'd wrap it up in a banner and I'd kind of weekly sell it to people. And Mike's in the room, he can contest to the fact that I was weekly selling because he still don't know what I was doing at the time I went to him for sales coaching. He was like, I just spoke to him, he went, Lovelda, I don't know what you were selling. I goes, good, because neither did I. So I was, cluelessly enthusiastic, but I was doing all of the right things. I'll be honest, I learned a lot along the way. I learned a bit about what I enjoyed doing and what I didn't enjoy doing, where I was pushing and where I wasn't pushing. And then, frankly, life got in the way, as it happens to do, doesn't it? I was in a job I didn't really love, and then I met a man. He convinced me it'd be a good idea to get married, and then I went off on a different trail, deciding it'd be a good idea to plan the princess wedding of the year. We'll go to Italy, we'll get a castle, like we had it all, right? But I couldn't do that in 3 events a week, or it was 3 events a month or something like that, and market, it just got too much. So I thought, I know what, I'll put a pin in this, and I'll come back to it later. So I did. I went off, and I, focused on getting married. The wedding was beautiful. I can show you the pics later if you're interested. So I did a good job there, pat on the back for me. So that was great. And then I came back from before I went on the wedding, my job literally got to the point I could do it no longer. Like, it was like, I cannot do this no more. So I quit, as you do before a wedding and a honeymoon, because they don't cost no money. So I quit that job, went off, had the time of my life, got back, panicked, found another job. By this point, it's been a good year since I've been involved in any of this business stuff. How on earth am I supposed to jump back into that? Because life's been in the way. I've been off the radar. My list is cold. Apparently a cold list, never a good idea. Still don't know what my purpose is. And I know as much as I love being a wife, it wasn't to just be a wife. I was never designed to just do that sort of thing. So I'm now back in a job and still have this burning desire, knowing I need to be doing something different, like life should be different. And not just that life should be different, but that I'm meant for something bigger, right? It's like I'm back in this job, but I know it's not the thing I should be doing. I know I'm meant for something bigger than this. But frankly, if you look at back to the left side of the brain, just quit a job, just spent a shit ton of money, pardon the French, spent a lot of money on a wedding and a honeymoon, so bank account not looking quite so good, cold list, not a clue what to do, and anybody you'd worked with up until that point pretty much vanished. So for all intensive purposes, I was back at ground zero. Not a great time to start going back down this business trail. It's kind of easier to go get employed and tell people that it's just a side gig that I do. So that's what I did. Got back into a job, and it wasn't long before that yearning kind of came up again. I'm going to come back to that point. I'll fast forward to where I am today. That was the beginning. That was a year ago, almost a year ago to the day, actually, just over a year ago. So I'm going to fast forward to where I am today. I have, I'm only going to talk about the last 2 and a bit months, put on a female speakers conference for about 100 odd women. We did our own magazine. I've got examples of it. Full-blown magazine, full-blown awards ceremony. Then a week later, I flew out to Lithuania and introduced Monica Lewinsky on stage in front of an audience of about 5,000 odd people. I'm quitting that day job I started because I thought it was a good idea. I've just launched a high-end mastermind, which is making a nice little tidy sum of money, if I'm not mistaken. I've got 2 speaker agents, one of whom literally just contacted me today for a gig in September, in November even. I'm fully booked in September with emceeing engagements, some of which have come through referrals. I'm not doing too bad. So what changed? And what changed is back in January, I made a decision to do it. In fact, I felt like I fell into an event, but you never fall into these things. What tends to happen is when your heart is calling you towards something, life throws you these little curveballs. It just throws you a little ball. And often what we tend to do is we tend to catch them and kind of go, oh, that was interesting. That was a bit of a fluke, wasn't it? And we put it down and forget about it. Well, I caught this one. It was an event in January. It was called Extraordinary Live. And I remember leaving thinking, something's changed. Something's changed. It's a bit odd. Something's changed. And so much has come from that because frankly, at the time, I'd made a decision at the end of last year that what I needed to do logically was focus. That's what I'm missing. A bit of focus in my life. Need a lot more focus. So the decision I'd made at the time was, I'm not doing any of this coaching malark because it doesn't work. I'm just going to MC. What I've actually done is I started something called the World Class Female Speakers group, where I work with women to get them on stages. And guess what I do? Coach them, funnily enough. And why do I share this? Because the only thing that changed between all the other times where I've been pulling and pulling and pulling is A, that little voice in the back of my head, when it called me towards doing something, I listened. And not listened in so much as, oh, that's kind of interesting. Listened despite the fact that everything in the world today looked like it probably wasn't going to add up and I didn't quite know how it was going to work. And so if there's one thing I'd really like to leave you with that I've learned over the successive failures of businesses, coming from a pretty mediocre existence, to be honest with you, a little bit privileged, but generally quite mediocre, nothing special, no big failures or anything like that, is that the easiest part of building a business and building any sort of success in life, really, is the logical bit. The harder part is continuously choosing to listen to that little voice when everything out there in the world tells you you shouldn't, when it doesn't quite line up perfectly, because it hasn't. Because for me, it took me making choices to invest in myself at a level that, frankly, I didn't think I could afford. It took me choosing to have conversations that were really uncomfortable. I mean, I sacked a lot of clients this year, to be honest, and some of them are very, very dear friends of mine, but they no longer resonated. It took me listening to that little voice of intuition that said, go left, go right, say it. The truth is we've all got it within us. But the problem we have in modern society is we're looking for it to all land up perfectly, but we want extraordinary. And extraordinary doesn't come in a beautiful package with a beautiful bow. You get it because you choose to take a couple of leaps of faith where you don't quite know how it's going to land, but everything in here, like everything in here, tells you it's absolutely perfect right now. Thank you.